Hope everybody had a good New Year. And we're back on the project of the rehousing of the Echoplex along with the combination of the parallel boost circuit. The next step, as I see it, we have obviously where we left off, the unit is now rehoused. This section over here is where we're going to be building in the circuit with the transistor, the NTE 452 transistor. We're probably going to try building it on just a simple tag strip. There really isn't a whole lot of components involved in this particular circuit like we're talking about. It's really just, you know, a gate, source, and drain with, you know, 1 or 2 resistor capacitors around each one of those particular points. We'll also need 2 DC inputs, right? Because we're running 9 volt on this unit, the MXR unit, and we'll be running 18 on the NTE transistor. I also wanted to put another courtesy output for the 18 volt so I can run on my board. I can run from this then to that equalizer that we saw on it, the MXR that runs at 18 without having to utilize multiple ports. So, you know, being that this transistor we were talking about is only taking up a few milliamps, it's kind of pointless to, you know, reserve an entire, you know, multi-hundred milliamp port for this. So breakout boxes for DC, for AC are very useful when building out your board to conserve cable and to put things, you know, in good spots. So we're going to put in an output as well. So the step I'm up to now is I want to drill out the locations for the various, you know, we've got our DC ports, we've got our jacks, input and output. We're going to have our potentiometer for controlling the boost levels. So I want to make it fit into my board really well. So I'm going to actually line it up using my board as, you know, a reference to see where's the most convenient place to put this jack that it won't interfere with something. Where's a good place to put this particular port, so forth and so on, and really customize it to the layout of what I've got going on right now. So back to doing marking on the chassis itself as to where all this stuff is going to be. So I'm using the old green tape to do that, so I could draw on it. Obviously drawing on a black box is kind of difficult unless you're using a silver marker, and then you got to wipe off the silver marker. So I don't really enjoy that so much as just taking the time to run a line of tape around it. So there we have our tape, and then we'll be able to just use, you know, a ballpoint pen, our square, maybe a ruler, to get everything where we want it. So I'm going to go and look at my board and see where I want everything to be, and then we'll be right back. Back from the board and marked out where I want everything. We're going to have our 18 volt here, 9 volt here, our input right here, our output right here, and then a complementary 18 out that way. So I'm going to start laying everything out in terms of getting it nice and neat. So I'm going to use my ruler here to locate the middle of the chassis. Right? And we always talk about this stuff, but whenever you're making something, if everything's equidistant, it tends to make the unit look really kind of professional, right? If you're kind of haphazard in where you place things, that is kind of what makes things look bad. So I would recommend, even if you don't, like say the distance, if this is not perfectly in the middle, that's not so much important as that everything is sort of in the same place relative to one another. So I don't sweat so much if I'm off by a tiny bit in the measurement of finding the middles of everything. More so than I just want everything to sort of be relatively in the same place. So these are going to be our holes here that we're going to pilot out, right? And I'm going to use this guy right here for transferring down. Right, and then we can do the same space between these two as to the other one, and then we'll have our sort of equidistant kind of thing there. So it looks like we're just about a tiny bit over 3/4. Which surprisingly is pretty close to where I eyeballed it. So that's another thing too, is to get used to trusting your eyes. People's eyes are generally pretty good at finding the middles of things and centers of things, and you know, for whatever reason, we're built that way. Now this jack over here is going to be kind of unique in its position relative to the elevation in the case, being that it's going to sit under the board here. So what I'm going to want to do is mount it basically as close to the bottom of the chassis as possible, right? So that it fits underneath there, which there is room for. So at this point we're going to be doing drilling, so it's a good idea in any case to take out the unit from inside the case here, so that way we don't end up ruining anything, right? With a drill bit, or getting chips and everything into the circuit, maybe trapped to create a short that you didn't quite get all the chips out of the box. So I'm just going to go and remove everything from here before I start drilling, and then I'll be able to locate that other DC port as close to what is really, I guess, the top of the box as possible, in order to make sure it sits underneath the circuit card of the Echoplex unit nicely. So we'll take this all out here, right? And pop it out, right? Here we go. And then I'll just preserve the unit and take all the parts again and put them in our little baggie here so we don't lose our stuff. Put this aside, take this guy, put it up here where it's nice and safe, and now we can measure for the DC port here. Make sure it's gonna fit. Looks good. I'll look at the bottom of the piece, make sure that there's nothing really in the way, and there shouldn't be. So we can go ahead, I think, and drill that. Now, to find the center, I'm going to kind of eyeball it a bit, knowing how thick the case is, so I can bottom this out. Right, so we'll take our little guy here, mark ourselves a line to intersect with. Oop. Get the little guy here, make sure there's room for your nut, right? So maybe we'll just use the nut and find the center of the nut. So the widest part of the nut around is at these points, right? That's the widest points, narrow here and wide here. And you want this to be able to turn inside of the box. So use the point as the lowest point at which the nut will be. Leaving myself a little bit of space. And that should be it right there. That should give us our location for the DC port that will sit underneath the circuit card in the box and be our surrogate or complementary out to keep running down 18 down the board without having to use extra ports. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and just drill these out, obviously using a pilot bit and then the unibit, and we'll be back. Got it all drilled out. Let's remove the tape off this guy. All right. And then I'm just kind of curious to see the fit for this DC port on the underside of this board. Well, so far so good. I'll have to see. Right now, here's the true test of it all, right? Will this fit? Will it fit? Yes! Success! Room to spare. So we did that right. That's good, because otherwise we'd have to go get another box and redo it. So happy that that worked. So we got a port there. Need to get another one of these jacks out of the bag. Got a bag of them here. Okay. And we're just gonna kind of, put all these guys in. Then we'll get an idea of where we're gonna put that little tag strip, little circuit strip guy, so that we can put our wiring, put all our capacitors and resistors and our transistor on there. They do make smaller ones of these. I just happen to have this one. Somewhere in my stash of parts, I have a smaller version that may be a better fit. I'll have to look for that as well. Maybe we'll use that if I can find one. If not, we can use this. That's fine. I have a kind of a thing about using these little strips, it seems, for making things. They're very handy, you know. I've always used them my whole sort of making stuff life. Oh, we're going to want to put a lock washer in there. Not that it makes a tremendous difference. Had to go grab a little lock washer, but you know, every millimeter counts when you're kind of laying something out that's tight like this. So we got the lock washer in there. Okay. So this is sort of where we're at. So we're going to have, as I said, this will be the 18 volt in, 18 volt out, 9 volt in to run the pedal, input to the whole unit, and then output from the whole unit. So we got one more jack to put in, and I need another lock washer. Just thinking, I wonder how many people was, you know, I do my little goofy projects like this at home when I'm not working, and I do them in my kitchen, right? We're in the kitchen, and normal people have food and pots and pans and spices in their cupboards. I've got hardware and resistors and transistors and transformers and in my kitchen in the cupboards. It's like, where's the olive oil? It's next to the 100 microfarad capacitors. It's pretty goofy. Anybody else out there got guitar stuff in their kitchens? Their cupboards are loaded. I just think it's convenient. I mean, there's all these drawers and shelves and Lazy Susans and all this stuff there. And it's like, I'm not, you know, I use fairly minimal amounts of, let's say, exotic cooking stuff, right? Not a whole lot of stuff that I'm into. I'll eat some, you know, advanced spices for me are like salt and pepper. Well, I shouldn't say that, but maybe that's an exaggeration, but it's kind of true. So the rest of it is all, and I have one frying pan, right? Or one pan and one pot. So the rest of the space would be empty. So I might as well put, you know, fill it up with tools and electronics. Like my linen closet is full of guitar pedals and amplifier chassis. It's crazy. It's like I saw on somewhere or whatever, I think Greg showed me the picture of it or whatever, but years ago we built some stuff for Steve Stevens, for Billy Idol, some amplifiers, and he sent us some pictures or whatever from his house, and he's got Marshall 412s in his living room, and I was like, Greg was like, he's got Marshalls in his living room like you. I got like 3 full stacks in my living room, you know. That's the furniture. My furniture is guitar stuff. I've got guitars, you know, as like decorations. It looks like a museum done by some guitar-obsessed lunatic, right? One day maybe we'll go on a tour with the camera, and we'll show you the extent of the sickness. All right, so that looks pretty good. So now the last thing we need to do is put in the podiometer, which will go right there. Right, so it's best to mark this from the inside. Probably shouldn't have put this thing back in again, but we sort of needed to confirm the position of the potentiometer there. So we can basically just eyeball that, because we know what it is relatively. It is in line with the jack here and equidistant between the two spaces, so we can basically eyeball that. And drill from the inside, right? So that should be it right there. So it's much easier to not have to transpose the measurement to the other side of the board, right? To the other side of the unit. And just go ahead and drill from the inside. All right, taking it apart again. Lots of fun, right? But it's always, you know, the time you waste doing this, you don't waste having to do it over, right? So had you not had the board in there, maybe you would have put the pot 3 millimeters too much to one side, and now you can't make your project. So that would suck. So we don't want that to happen. So we'll take a little extra time and just, you know, assemble, reassemble, disassemble as many times as it takes until we're done. All right, so we'll pull the unit back out again. Put it safely out of the way. Grab our drill. Still got the unit bit in there. Load it up at the 16th bit. Right? And just gonna put this down as well, so that I don't smash on that little bezel there, putting too much pressure down. And I'll just drill right like that. So I've always said these Hammond boxes, they drill so nicely. You know, they machine great. If you guys are ever contemplating material, aluminum is my favorite material, I think, in the world. Weld's great, machine's great. You get it in all kinds of strengths and tempers, and you know, from castings to, you know, tempered, you know, T6 for chassis. You know, it's good stuff. Has great heat sink qualities to it. Dissipates heat excellent. It's not magnetic, so it won't transfer, you know, in terms of transformers, it won't, you know, pick up all that kind of stuff. It's just pretty good stuff for electronics and everything, really. Aluminum is my favorite metal. All right, so we put this guy in there. Is this the right pot? That's the 25K. Wrong! Somewhere here there should be my 10K pot. Now where did it go? Here it is. 10K pot. You'll see a lot of times these pots have these little extra tabs on there for stopping them from rotating when they're in the chassis, and they have a corresponding little hole that these made into. I don't do that. I just kind of break it off. So we basically decided that we're only going to need one potentiometer, right? That's serendipitous, these holes lined up. Being the fact that the unit itself, actually let's go this way. Yeah, that looks good. The unit itself has the ratio on it. That will suffice to be our level. So we won't need to use a balance pot. That would be redundant, which is a great word, redundant. So one pot for the output level of the boost circuit, right? That's all we need. And we're using this particular little chicken head on there. This is a different chicken head than some other chicken heads. This is the small, tiny chicken head. Get the old mini screwdriver out. Right. This may have a burr in it. Let's try another chicken head. Might have to work that one out. Might have a little burr in it that's preventing it from seating. There we go. Right? Just to give it a look-see. Right? So there's our sort of potentiometer. Alright, and then the next thing we're going to need to locate is the tag strip. So let's go ahead and just drop this in. We don't need to mount it or, you know, screw it in. We could just place it here. And we can see that the tag strip will fit nicely right there. Right? So we can remove this again. And we could just kind of place it in where we want it to go. Let's say like right there. Get our magic marker. I don't know what's so magic about these things. And there's our dot as to where we want to put that thing. Grab a pilot. Right? I don't want to put pressure on the wrong stuff here, so I'll just you know what? I'll just hold it like that. Yeah. This only requires an 1/8 inch kind of hole. So we're just putting a number 4 machine screw through there. Let me see if I can find some black machine screws at the hardware store in the specialty bin so that it kind of blends. Although, you know, stainless doesn't look bad with this layout anyway. We have some stainless screws already. So we can also continue the theme. Let's see, we got a bag of stainless screws here. See how it looks. See if when we go out today we can get some black screws. You know what? I think that looks great. And actually, these screws are kind of cheesy that they came with. They look like, you know, zinc, maybe. I might get some stainless machine screws and replace those just to kind of dress it up a bit. Alright, so let's see. we're just going to put that, I guess we can just test it all out, see how it's going to look. Although I'm going to build the unit outside, most of it, I'm going to build outside of the box and then drop it in and then make the connections I need to the power and to the potentiometer. It's just a lot easier to work outside of the box than it is inside the box. Okay. All right. There we go. So that's pretty good. So let's get that where we want it. So you can see we have the ports, the DC ports. We're going to mount our little transistor here on this tag strip. We'll have, you know, the ground point. We'll have the source, the drain, the gate. We'll have the output. Maybe not the output, rather, because that'll be off the resistor. But rather the splitter will be on here. We'll come in. We'll split it two ways. One way to the delay unit, the other way to the boost unit, and then we can just recombine the two signals with a variable, not a variable rather, but a fixed voltage divider or fixed divider, resistive divider here. 50-50, I'd say it'd be fine. Use maybe two 10Ks or whatever just to, you know, isolate. Other than that, I think we're doing pretty good. Pop it all together again. And that's sort of what our unit's going to look like. All right, nice, neat build. Everything you want. Just do some neat wiring. And we should have ourselves one hell of a cool sort of modified MXR pedal here for this job. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and draw the layout for the tag strip. I've already pretty much got it in my head how it's supposed to work, but it's always a good idea to draw it out so that you know that it's right, and then you can just follow that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll be back. Actually, we're going to do that in the next video. So this will be enough for today, I think. And then for the next video, so I think this one's pretty long, and the last one was stupid long. I gotta always remember to keep them short. So the next video upload will contain the circuit design and then sort of like the build out. So that'll be in the following video. So again, Happy New Year. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.